As I grew up, I realized that the lies I'm telling people have a chance of becoming the reality as well. And I don't think, with me it did start with lying. With with me it did start with building up stories about myself and about the world, and just to be remarkable, I used to cook up some fictional story that aisa hua tha and tell people and all of that. But over a period of time, I think that it started to become real, you know. And there was this time in my life where I failed in the ninth standard, which I feel is the biggest advantage that I could have got in life, because the embarrassment of failure set me up to create truths for those lies, to actually do those things and apply myself, you know. So, yeah, it started with lying. I'm not advocating it either, but it did run the imagination. You have to be imaginative when you lie.
And you also talked about how when you moved to Jamshedpur, you were living in a house that had theatres connected to it. So when you slept, you could hear the sound of cinema bleeding through those walls. How did that shape you?
Yeah, all through my childhood, my relatives who I stayed with for 1 year back in Jamshedpur, they have cinema theatres, and these Jamshedpur talkies and Kareem talkies are actually connected to the house. So literally, पुराने ज़माने में क्या होता था कि गर्मी बहुत होती थी, and there was no air conditioning even in cinema theatres. So they used to open the doors at night for the air to come in, and then you could see a part of the screen from the house itself. So वो रेखा का कान दिख रहा है, वो अमिताभ बच्चन की नाक दिख रही है मिस्टर नटवरलाल में, and वो गाना हो रहा है परदेसिया. And so then you realize that all of the times that Amitabh Bachchan's nose is coming, it's coming to the right side of the screen, and Rekha is to the left side of the screen. They have maintained that. It's only much later when I started directing that I realized why they have that and what is this access and look, etc. But it was a very fascinating atmosphere, because that audio visual, you know, that music coming in the noise of life, it was so exhilarating, it was so enticing. I always wanted to just like go into the theater and watch for a few minutes and then come out, which kind of was allowed if I could kind of, you know, talk to the gatekeeper and make me let him, ask him to let me in. But it was a very fascinating atmosphere. It was an atmosphere also comprised of the audience in the theater, because each one who came to see a Mithun Chakravarti film thought he's Mithun Chakravarti. He thought of himself no less. बाहर में एक जयपुर, I remember, this is coincidental. There was in Jamshedpur talkies and Kareem talkies in that area, Jaipur hair cutting house. So there was a connection from childhood with Jaipur. Jaipur hair cutting house में लोग क्या करते थे, जो मिथुन चक्रवर्ती की फिल्म देखने आ रहे हैं, वो मिथुन का पहले हेयर कट करवाते थे और फिर वो थिएटर में आते थे पिक्चर देखने के लिए. तो उनकी जो चमक, हम लोग कहते हैं जमशेदपुर में जो चमक होती थी ना, that was also very fascinating and no less than the glamour of the cinema. So that atmosphere really enticed me. And I'd never thought, nobody from Jamshedpur, I never knew anybody who's been in films or who does any work in film. But it wasn't even, I wouldn't even say it was a calculated dream. It is a dream that you dream, not hoping for it to come alive. And I'm the luckiest man in the world that I'm here and I'm a film director now.
Well, we're all lucky too. I'm speaking for all these hundreds of people here because we get to see your creations. Chamkila was one of my favorite films. Who else is a fan? So what I loved is, Imtiaz, you said that after Chamkila, people started to say, oh, Imtiaz Ali ka comeback, right? And A.R. Rahman said to him, but gaye kahan the? And he advised you and sort of told you that don't take these things to heart because movie business में ये होता रहता है. People get written off. He said, मैं खुद ही some 7-8 times people have written me off, right?
Hello.
But in this, failure in the movies is a very unique type of failure, right? It's public. It's almost instant. By that Friday, you know ki which way, you know, it's going. And it takes years to get that other chance to say, no, no, I'm not that guy. He's back, right? In 20 years of making movies, Imtiaz, what have you understood about how to handle it?
What I have understood now, I feel that now this time is very challenging, Anu. Because what social media does is that it can make a person psychophantic because they keep giving you the feed that you want to see. So I think there is enough on the net that comes to me automatically that will suggest that everything that I have done is golden. And if it has not worked, it is somebody else's fault. You know, and I can choose to believe that. And this is true, I think, for all human beings on earth right now. You know, you can choose to believe what you want and have a different notion of reality. Because reality now is not one thing which somebody is aware of and somebody is not. It's like, so to guide yourself through this, and when failure happens, when you don't do something or you do something that people don't like, to be aware of it is very important. To get that is very, very important. So I feel this is a challenge that I'm facing today. When criticism comes, you've got to actually look at it in the face and figure out whether it is genuine, whether this makes sense to you. And if one has the ability to do so, there are going to be 2 or 3 things that you learn from it. Success will give you no such opportunity. Success is something that, you know, I don't know, people enjoy or want, but I think failure can teach you a lot of things. And you have to also I guess, you know, life is not only success and failure, no? Life is also what your relationships are, what you're striving to do, etc., etc. Those remain unaffected. So that's how the cookie crumbles, I think. Because what is important is to be able to do better at the work that you want to do. You know, like my father has said that if you want to do something of your interest, then you better do it very well. So to be able to do better, sometimes you have to not play safe. Playing safe is never going to tell you, the route.
No, but India, which is exactly the question I wanted to ask you, that what struck me about Chamkila was how unburdened it was by the 2 previous failures. You were not coming from a place ki, yaar meri 2 pictures chali nahi hai, so let me be safe. In fact, Chamkila did everything. It was, in terms of form, so inventive, right? It was taking risks at every level. Did in fact the failure set you free?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think failure can set you free. After, like, let's say Tamasha, there were more number of people that did not like Tamasha when it released. And after that, the people that liked Tamasha over the time, they formed a very exclusive club. And they looked down upon anybody who said anything negative about Tamasha. I found myself in a unique situation being filmmaker of such a film, because I thought that if I were club, they wouldn't let me into any exclusive club. But then I made a film which didn't work at all. People said, this is nonsense, Harry Met Sejal. What, you guys are like, is this positive or negative, this chair? Okay, people didn't like it at the time of its release. The overwhelming, re-release it? Okay.
But the they're doing that with so many of his films, and they're running to double what they ran originally.
Yeah, but the point is that when it didn't do well, जब Harry met Sejal, for whatever reason, then it did unburden me a little bit. It told me that okay, don't worry, you can do anything, can succeed and anything can fail. The biggest star is not a guarantee for success either. And so it's like ultimately in the film industry, the work that you do, you will get recognition and goodwill for that. It is not in lieu of who else is with you in the time that you do that work that you will get that. So I think, yeah, to answer your question, and it's a very smart one, so, failure can set you free, and you better use it to set you free.
Yeah, but this thing, this roar for tamasha, right? This happens with so many of your films, Imtiaz. Yes, please. Right? कि वो Friday पर, that weekend is not a great one. Then over the years, it accrues power, and then people just become like rabid fans. So like you said, nobody can criticize Tamasha, no one can criticize Rockstar. He very graciously said, he said Rockstar में flaws and people got mad. Who are you to say Rockstars में flaws हैं? Do you ever think about ये मेरे साथ ही क्यों होता है?
नहीं, मैं एक ही हूँ ना, मतलब मेरे को कोई और होने का एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है, तो so I don't know how it would be otherwise.
Why is it that, are you just ahead of your time?
I met somebody in the lift. There was a girl in the lift right now. He said, "Sir, do you think you are ahead of your time?" I'm trying very hard to not be. And this whole thing that your movie doesn't do very well on the first day of release, and then it does better later. I'm working to change that, Anu. Okay, and I'm trying to learn all the tricks possible. But the serious answer to this question really is, and this is what I told the girl in the lift, it is my incapacity, and believe me, this is not a statement of modesty. मैं यहाँ आकर के झूठ नहीं बोलूँगा जयपुर जैसी जगह में. अब मैं झूठ बोलना छोड़ चुका हूँ, क्योंकि मैं फिल्में बनाता हूँ. मगर क्या होता है कि it is your inability to tell the story simply that makes it seem like if you watch it for 3 times you really enjoy it most. It is my inability, and I'm working to dispel that, so that every layer, everything that one enjoys in a movie, why can't it be seen and enjoyed in the first viewing? It should be, But for that, I need to, when I finish, then clap. But for that, I need to have the ability of the storyteller to tell it simply. हमारे देश में महाभारत लिखी गई है, सब लोग उसको समझते हैं. उससे तो कोई कॉम्प्लिकेटेड या बड़ी चीज नहीं बना रहा ना मैं. अगर वो समझी जा सकती है तो मेरी फिल्में भी समझी जा सकती हैं. ऐसी कोई खास रॉकेट साइंस नहीं है. But obviously, as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, one needs to try to have that ability that a Ved Vyas or a Valmiki or a Homer and all of these people have had. So everybody, I think, who's a filmmaker in some sort of a way, knowingly or unknowingly, is on that path.
Do you I don't know, do you smile? Do you find it amusing when people defend these films with such vehemence?
Yeah, it reminds me of the Fidain. And with Rockstar, it happened a lot. That's how it began. When I said something about Rockstar, and they were like, I could see that they're going to hurt me. And I was like, let me stop talking about it right now. And I think what happens with a filmmaker is that you make the film, then you move on. But like for me, the important films are not Tamasha, Rockstar, and Highway, and all of that. The important films are the films that I saw when I was viewing films only, when I was not a filmmaker. So somebody says something wrong about Sholay, and I will protest. रमेश सिप्पी won't even know. धर्मेंद्र को मैंने सीन बताए हैं कि सर पता है आपके शोले में ऐसा ऐसा हुआ था. He doesn't remember. He only remembers Dilip Kumar's films. You know, so the films that you watch are your own. The films that you make are just like houses that you live in on rent.
Wow. But in that, is it? Acha, how many people say their lives were tamasha? Now, when you start to create a film, do you ever think about this? Because
Never.
Never.
No.
This is too much responsibility.
Yeah, too much, too much responsibility, and this is not the intent at all. Matlab, I don't think I know any better than anybody else to be giving gyan in my movies. But yes, it's a part of me. I can't say that. As I said, I've stopped lying ever since I've started making movies. It's a part of me. This is definitely a reflection of a greater truth than my life itself is. So if somebody takes it into consideration in any decision making, then it's up to them really. But yes, I'm never expecting a response of a personal type from a movie. All response that I'm thinking of is that when जैसे बोलते हैं ना कि जब पिक्चर टूटती है, जब फिल्म खत्म होती है थिएटर में, and then when the doors open, when people come out, they have smiles on their faces. This is the only response I'm aiming at.
Nice. Has the way you create music changed over 20 years?
Oh yes. Since I was from theatre and then in television, where we did not have songs, when I made my first film, then I got aware of the fact that इसमें गाने होने हैं. Then you have to write what's called situation. And I'm not a music person really, but I was guided by those around me, because मैंने फिल्में देखी थी तो I realized that, oh, you know, we can have a song over here of this type, and we can have. I was doing it involuntarily. Now I understand a bit better about what that process can be and how it can be used very well, because like any Indian film goer, I love songs, I love music in cinema. But I think it's also the kindness of the music directors that I have worked with, Sandesh and Pritam and Rahman sir, that they have also guided me that this is what you can do, and so what if you don't understand or you're not a music person, we'll help. So I really enjoy, there's nothing more that I enjoy in filmmaking as far as much as I enjoy music and the shooting of music. So I think I was always interested, and music directors were very kind to me to let me get into the studio and be there all the time and so on and so forth.
But at this point, what is the working process between you and ARR? Like a song like Vida Karo, which is just stunning. What is your brief to him for that?
See, in the beginning few times, I'm just talking to him about the film. And with Rahman particularly, there is like, he then composes some music and he sends to me, like he's done recently also, sends to me. And then that makes sense to some part of my story in a way that it's quite magical. I don't understand how he gets in there. And then I weave it into the story.